Hello and welcome to another episode of Hughes at 10. I'm the Hughes, this is the 10. It is Sunday the 29th of August 2021, and as Hurricane Ida bears down on Louisiana and Alabama and Mississippi, it's causing the Mississippi River to actually flow in the other direction. News has come out that they couldn't move people out of the hospitals in New Orleans because all the hospitals surrounding New Orleans were full with COVID patients who hadn't got their vaccinations. So that's put me in a really bad mood. Also, Lee Scratch Perry's dead as well. So, yes, that's put me in an ultra bad mood. Also, Michael Gove was seen out last night clubbing in Aberdeen. And, probably coked off his tits. And this is a guy who is an important minister in our government and fancies himself at being the next prime minister, even though he's about as likeable as a toxic slug. Anyway, big hello to everyone who's watching. I love you all. Obviously, I'm not annoyed with you. Kevin Hegarty says hi me. John Barleycorn says hello. Richard Foster says c'est moi. Bonsoir. Steve Mail says evening all. Graham says evening all. Charlotte says hi. I am watching at work late day last minute order on a Sunday. And it's a bank holiday tomorrow in the UK. But you're in America, so, different. They don't have Boxing Day in America. Did you know that? They don't have Boxing Day. It's like Christmas is over, right? Get back to work, you bastards. Basically, it's like Ebenezer Scrooge is in charge of Christmas in America. And it's like, that's it. You've had your fun. But then again, Christmas in America does run from Thanksgiving at the end of November to Christmas Day. So, and then you probably have a week of absolutely doing nothing before New Year comes along. It's a very weird, like, bunching all the holidays together in the holiday season. But there you go. Rolf and the rest of them. Yes, indeed. Evening, sensible people of the world. Unlike the alien Gove. It's a bit yuck, isn't it? It's a bit yuck, I've got to say. The way, he's on the dance floor sweating, just being Michael Gove on it in an Aberdeen nightclub. Saw a farmer today resolve the problem of his crop rotting in the trees, putting up signs for pick your own. That's probably the way that you're going to have to do it now. Because there used to be a joke, what does an Englishman use to get his apples down out of his tree? He uses a pole. Yeah, it wasn't a very funny joke. Okay, hi, handsome. Ooh, nice short shirt. Kisses, thank you very much. I've had this for a very, very long time. It's one of my oldest bits of T-shirts, I think, that I actually own. I went to a family party today, found out some of my family are Tories. I'm sorry to hear that plumbed off. But actually, there's nothing good to say about that, is there? Comment vous est? Graham, j'espère que vous serez très bien. You're feeling very good. Good. I'm feeling very good. You hope I'm feeling very good. Yes, I'm feeling very good. Thank you. Graham, I hope you're well. When are you going to Ginger Island? I'm going to Ginger Island in 12 days. 12 days. In fact, if we go over to the breaking news, the Ginger Island website, if I can just get it up, and the website, I'll show you. Try not to fall asleep tonight. Sorry, Jeremy, I'll try and be more exciting and keep you awake. And yes, that's really big on that screen. Okay, so if I go to FN11, I hate you. There we go. Okay, all right. So if I then do this screencast, yes, lovely. There you go. So there you go. So it's 11 days, 3 hours, 17 minutes, and 57 seconds before we head off to Ginger. Well, that's actually going to midnight on the day. So I should really set that for 6 o'clock in the morning, because that's when my flight bloody leaves for France. Which means I'm going to have to get to Manchester for like 4 in the morning, which is not going to be great for anyone, especially not for Catherine, who's going to have to drop me off. Sorry, Catherine. Anyway, love you. Facebook, Luke Owen. Hello, Luke. Good evening, Graham, and happy bank holiday weekend, Graham and chat. Smiley face. Thank you very much, Luke. Not you're counting or anything. No, I'm not counting. I'm not counting down the days till I head off into the blue of the Caribbean, which is unfortunately not very blue at the moment. It's kind of grey and very rainy and blustery. But that is the north of the Gulf of Mexico, where they do get hit with a lot of hurricanes. But I saw a terrible stat today, which was that, well, it was terrible. I mean, the implications were terrible. I don't mean it was a bad stat. Don't mean it was untrue. But between 1981 and 2010, the average number of hurricanes in a season was about 10.2. Just 10.2 in a season. So not that many. And then in the last few years, that has risen dramatically. And in fact, last year in the Gulf of Mexico and the Caribbean, there were 30 storms registered, major storms, major hurricanes registered in 2020, because the climate change scientists were right. Turns out you should listen to experts. Why don't you listen to experts? Well, you do, because you're watching this. But, I'm not an expert. And I say, loud and proud, I'm not an expert, so I listen to them. I listen to people who know more about shit than I do. People accuse me of being egotistical and narcissistic because I have my own show and I talk to people. Okay, fair enough. But at least I don't say to people, hey, stop listening to those experts. You should listen to me instead. Because that sounds to me like the most narcissistic thing you could possibly say, which is something that a lot of climate change deniers, Brexiteers, and anti-vaxxers all seem to come out with, and conspiracy theorists. Throw them in a box, chuck it at the sun. Yovash, thank you very much for my first super chat in an age. Thank you, Yovash. €10 super chat. The super chats are open. Just remember that soon you'll be on a tropical island and away from politics, alone with Marcus. Ishmael will be on the island as well. My caretaker, Ishmael, will be on the island with us, so don't worry. It's not just going to be me and Marcus. Oh, good news, though. I don't know if Marcus got back to me, actually. I texted him earlier. But we have been invited to be on Maximilian's show. I thought it was going to be on Tuesday, but it's actually going to be on... the Friday. So on Friday next week at 9:30, Marcus and I are going to be gate crashing Maximilian Robespierre's live show. So please look out for that. I just got a message off one of my friends. Have just watched the trailer for your new adventures. That fella's fucking insane. Good luck. Laughy faces. Cheers, Marcus. Marcus says that's fine. Okay. How come I get more views than the views on Labour? Yes, well, we've talked about Labour's crapitude when it comes to using the internet to their advantage, but, that's another story. So, next Friday, please check out me and Marcus on Maximilian Robespierre's live channel. It should be good. I know we'll all pile into the Maximilian Robespierre's Discord server afterwards, I think. So please join us for that. Taki says, are your plans for the bank holiday? What are your plans, I think, should I say, for the bank holiday, Graham? Well, I've invited Ben Chambers of 16 Million Rising radio show. I've invited him over tomorrow and we're going to have a barbecue. Unfortunately, I think it's going to rain, which is a bit shit, because I called him yesterday when it was like dead sunny, and I'm like, do you want to come over for a barbecue? And he's like, yeah, and then looked at the weather and it changed. But having a barbecue in the afternoon. But I'm hopefully going to be doing a show pretty much every day this week, and they'll probably be at 10 o'clock because the kids don't go back to school till Thursday. I'll probably do 10 o'clock shows all this week. Just so you know, it's just hard to do a 1 o'clock show when there's kids running around, making noise, jumping up and down the trampoline, or banging upstairs, watching TV or something. Okay, Jeremy Lance, good morning, mate. AU, Australia. Hi, Jeremy, how you doing, mate? Love Australia. We're going to get an amazing trade deal with Australia. It's going to fuck over all of our farmers, left, right, and centre, because although the government promised not to allow substandard products. Well, not substandard, but no. Australian farming practices and American farming practices and Argentinian farming practices are not quite up to the quality and standard of British farming practices. So what's going to happen is we're going to be getting these cheap goods coming in. We're going to get cheap lamb and beef and other meat from Australia, and it's not going to be the same standard. So if you are a British farmer, right, you can't legally lower your standards to compete against stuff coming from Australia. Yep. Ladies and gentlemen, food coming from the other side of the world, it's going to be cheaper than the food we make ourselves in this country. And so you're going to see piles of dead animals. You're going to see stacks of cows and sheep and pigs burning. They're just going to kill them and they're going to burn them in piles. And we can watch all these nice Brexit burning piles of livestock. Hurrah! Another Brexit bonus. In fact, in the Daily Mail today, surprisingly, they suggested that we form some kind of union with the EU. I'm not making this up. I shit you not. They suggested that we come up with this kind of like union with the EU to circumvent all the Brexit red tape that we're having to deal with, which is making shortages happen. Why are shortages happening? Well, because if you leave the single market and leave the customs union, it means that you've got to check things going across the border, and that takes time. Especially if you're Marks and Spencer's, and one of the things that you make is ready meals, and you try and prepare the ready meals, which contains lots of different kinds of ingredients, and then try and bring it across the border, and they have to pick it apart. They have to pick apart the sandwich and find out what the ingredients are and see if they're up to the quality and the standards that they're supposed to be. And on top of this, we're bringing in a new system, apparently. I don't think it'll actually happen, but we're supposed to be bringing a system in on January the 1st, which is going to be the new British standards, which is going to be better than the EU standards. It's not. It's probably going to be worse. But we're going to have to check things for British standards. And people who want to import stuff or export stuff to Britain, so we import it from elsewhere, people who want to do that are now going to have to find out a way of getting their products, be it food or alcohol or electronic goods or whatever, get this old-fashioned 1970s British standards kite mark, I assume. Because, yay, the 70s, they were great if you like brown and orange and curry with raisins in. Richard Prosser, the banks are all self-important in our society and they wanted some holidays. That's true. Yeah, they are. Kevin Haggerty says, has this do my stop coming up? I'm listening from here out. Hi, Kevin. Welcome. Similar says, thank you for the explanations. The term bank holiday just sounded odd to my foreign ears. Yeah, it is a bit odd, isn't it? You know, the bankers, did they work very hard, the bankers? They deserve a day off after, trashing the economy in 2008 and totally getting away with it. The worldwide economy there. Sorry for the typo mistake. This is fine. Don't apologise for typos. I'll try and suss out what you mean. But I'm trying to read it, and you're trying to write it, and it's all live. It's all going live, and you send it, and you can't unsend it. Once you've seen it, you can't unsee it. Like Michael Gove sweating off his coked up face in an Aberdeen nightclub. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. What are the odds on the October customs check being postponed until next year? I give it 5-1. Yeah. Well, we need to employ, 30,000 new customs agents? Is it 30,000? Might be even more. Might be even fucking more than that, because we're idiots, and that's what we do. We do really stupid stuff, and then we blame everybody else for our own mistakes. Britain. We used to be kings of the world. Makes a mockery of taking back control. Indeed. Mail to transport that food from Australia is expensive and takes weeks to arrive. Impossible cheap deal, Graham. Yeah, it won't be airmail, mate. It'll be on the cargo ship, and they can hold like 18,000 containers now. So even refrigerated, you're not putting that much money on what it'll cost. I mean, we have to pay VAT in this country. We have to pay all kinds of stuff. I tell you what though, if Lee's watching, I was in the garden yesterday, and I was listening to ubr.fm, and I can't recommend it enough. It's absolutely brilliant. Lee's set it all up. I've not had that much to do with it. But you just go to ubr.fm, press play, and then turn your phone off. Well, turn the screen off and put your headphones in, and you can listen to the latest videos from Bylines Times, Bowler Hat Man, songs from Mitch Ben, Maximilian, obviously, Phil from A Different Bias. And they have the news. I don't know how he's got this, but he's actually got the news. Simon Marks, who does the America report for on the James O'Brien show, on LBC actually, their American correspondent. He presents the news on UBR somehow. It's really fascinating. I don't know how Lee set that up, but it's really, really, really good. I can't recommend it enough. So when I'm away and I'm not here to talk to you. Well, I will be, but not in this way. We won't be talking politics as much. Although I do believe Marcus still wants to be making political videos every day. Good luck. I don't know how I'm going to get the energy to do that, but we'll try. We will endeavour. They're going to have long bloody days on that island. Yeah. So if you want to listen to ubr.fm, Can't recommend it enough. Really good job, Lee. Graham, the imported food is only cheaper because no one pays for the pollution, according to CO2, of course. Of course, yes, Richard Prosser. I think coming from Australia to the UK, a cargo ship will probably burn the same fuel as it would burn in. It will burn about 2 or 3 Olympic swimming pools worth of fuel. I mean, it is an insane amount of fuel these things burn. They have engines the size of houses, and they use the filthiest fucking oil they can get their hands on, because they get like the gulch oil, they get shit oil, crude oil, not gulch oil, crude oil, and they spin it, they basically what's it called, diffraction, whatever, they diffract it themselves on board the ship, and they dump the shit stuff overboard, because you're allowed to do that if you're not too close to the coast. Shipping is a really fucking dirty industry. And I know, like, they really helped me out when I was traveling around the world without flying. But given the choice, I would rather take a yacht, because that's actually, catapulted around the world. Well, no, a sailboat, sorry, not a yacht, because you obviously get motorized yachts, which are just CO2 producing pieces of shit. Floating nightmares for the environment. And also, if you have an engine on your ship, it really fucks with the wildlife in the sea. Especially like whales and dolphins, are really, really badly affected by the constant thumbing of your motors going through the ocean, because the sound of a big container ship's engine goes for miles through the ocean. Just goes for miles. Videos of island politics, indeed. Does that mean sweary PMQs is off? I'm afraid so, John Barleycorn. We won't be doing sweary PMQs for a bit. But the Parliament's coming back this week, so maybe I'll do it next week. Hospitals are running out of test tubes. Bloody hell! Another Brexit win. Jesus Christ! British standards became ISO, which became the CE mark. Yeah, but now we're going back to British standards because, for some reason. Graham, my Brexiteer friend told me that Greece never paid its debt in one of my attempts to open his eyes. Impossible. Greece never paid its debt to who? To what? Greece was in trouble and the Eurozone countries came to its aid. Britain was never in the Eurozone, so whatever. But like, what happened in Greece was disgraceful. I mean, the government spent more money than it was taking in tax. It was basically lying in the pockets of its mates. It was a really bad government in Greece. And they were bailed out. Yeah, they were bailed out by the Eurozone countries, which wouldn't have happened had they not been in the EU. Maybe they could have gone to the IMF and asked for the biggest loan in human history, like the UK did in 1976, when we were kings of the world. Mark says, what's it going to take for Labour to at least back a rejoin of the single market? I don't know, mate. Full on lobotomy, suck the brains out through their nose, like you are fucking embalming them for mummification. I have no idea. Labour have completely lost the way. They are not being proactive. They are being reactive. They are not making the most of social media. They're not making the most of the hundreds of thousands of would-be supporters who would support them if they took a stronger line on going back into the EU, or going back actually into this single market and the customs union to start with. If they announced that as one of their policies, people would flock back to Labour in their droves. But they won't, because, I don't know, they seem to want to court the racist vote more than they want your vote or my vote. In that case, they can fuck off. So Greek Tories then, yeah. Exactly, Mark. Bloody good question. Yeah, thanks, Plumduff. I agree. The UK did nothing to help Greek, while the Eurozone nations helped Greece every step of the way. Yeah, tacky. Britain did nothing to help Greece. And this lie that, look at Greece, and that was a reason why the EU was a bad thing. It was like, well, actually, that could happen to any country that had a shit government that didn't know what they were doing. Sounds familiar. But at least Greece had the safety net of being part of the EU and being part of the Eurozone. Greece is still paying off its debts at a reduced interest rate, which equates to a gift, but they are paying off their debts. That's some conservator. Yeah, they are. Yovash said food is not something that should be globally sourced. Most say at least 75% of the food should be locally produced, no matter what the cost. Yovash, Can I give you the super chat back? I don't know how to do that while I'm doing this live, but that's a very, very, very good comment. That should be government policy. It really should. And don't forget, locally sourced could include stuff coming from the Netherlands and France and Italy, because that's not that far away. If you think about it, if you're getting food from France to Kent, it's probably closer than if it was coming down from Aberdeenshire. See what I mean? So locally sourced could come from Ireland. It could come from the countries nearby our country, part of the EU. That's not nearly as bad as what we do at the moment. And what we do at the moment, that's really badly put, Graham. Never mind my shit grammar. You will have to put with it. But yeah, I mean, we need to... And I hate it when the Brexiteers go, oh, yeah, McDonald's run out of milkshakes, but people in this country are too fat anyway, so, they shouldn't get milkshakes. Oh, I'm talking about missing the point. However, I do agree that we should go back to seasonal fruit and veg, seasonal meat. So, for instance, when I was growing up, you had a season where you could get lamb from the UK, and then the other 6 months you would get lamb from New Zealand, which isn't great for the environment, to be honest with you. Let's just not have lamb in those 6 months. And then suddenly, yay, we can get lamb again. And lamb's my favourite meat. It's the one meat that I would really struggle to give up. I could give up beef tomorrow. In fact, I don't really eat beef because of its environmental impact. Chicken never massively excites me. It's usually what you put on the chicken. You deep fry it or peri-peri or whatever. Peri-peri or peri-peri. Yeah, and pork. Okay, I do love bacon. Sorry to my ethical, vegan and vegetarian friends. I really want them to make lab-grown bacon. And once they make that stuff, I will be eating it. But I'd like it grown in a lab in the UK. So we don't get these food miles. Because every time we make food, it uses loads of water and produces loads of CO2. Now, it's bad enough in the actual place where you're making the food, but to then put it on a ship and transport it halfway around the world, burning its Olympic-sized swimming pool full of fuel on the way, it's not great. It's not optimum. And if we're seeing an almost threefold increase in hurricanes hitting the Americas, the Caribbean, because of global climate change, we're seeing these massive fires around the world. We're seeing devastation like we've never seen before. Floods in Germany. They're saying, it's once in 1,000 years, and then it was once in 100 years, and then it was once in 10 years, and soon it's going to be once a year. I think mass will truly rebel if there's no turkeys at Christmas. I don't think so, Donald. I don't think so. I think that the Brexiteers, the 40% of the country who are still massively invested in Brexit and the Conservative Party and Boris Johnson, it would take... You know what they're like? You know that Japanese guy they found in like the Solomon Islands or Papua New Guinea who was still fighting... Oh, no, it wasn't. It was in the Philippines. That Japanese guy they found in the Philippines that was still fighting World War II years after the battle had been won. That's lost, actually, in the case of the Japanese. But and he didn't believe the war was over, so he kept on fighting. That's kind of like Tory voters now. They still absolutely 100% believe in Brexit, even though it's been proven beyond a shadow of a doubt to be the biggest exercise in stupidity in human history. I mean, it's quite impressive if you think about it. It's like the first country to ever impose economic sanctions on itself. Why do this? No idea. You don't like foreigners. Yeah. Anyway. But yeah, I'm increasingly of the opinion that the people who vote Conservative and vote Brexit Party and think that Nigel Farage is wonderful and Boris Johnson needs excusing for everything he does, I don't think there's any way back for them. They're like Corbyn fanatics or Trump fanatics, short of doing something like the Emperor Hirohito when he renounced his divinity. Because apparently the emperor was the god. He was a god emperor in Japan. At the end of the war, one of the sanctions put on Japan by the victors in World War II was that he had to say he wasn't a god. And I think that would be something really good for Jeremy Corbyn, for Boris Johnson, and for Trump to try and do. Or be forced to do, perhaps. That might be nice. But I've got a feeling that it could go a bit Monty Python, especially if could you imagine Jeremy Corbyn standing in front of a group of his adoring fan base and saying, "I'm not actually a god. I'm not the Messiah." And they go, "But I say you're a Messiah. You look like a Messiah. I should know. I've followed a few." "No, but I'm not the Messiah." "Only the true Messiah will deny his own divinity." "Okay, then. I am the Messiah. See?" Yeah, indeed. Okay, Mark says, "We need to get younger voters to turn out. The problem is Tories, older generations turn out for elections." Yeah, but I mean, we need to get young people engaged in politics, and we can't do that in this country for two reasons. First, past the post, and secondly, because it is absolutely stitched up by the privately educated or by private schools, which are an absolute scam. They are a mafia in this country, the private schools. And what they do is they make it so that if you want to run as an MP, and all the parties do this, the Greens, the leaders are privately educated, the Labour under Corbyn, privately educated, under and all of his advisors were as well. Under I know Starmer didn't. He wasn't technically privately educated, but he did go to a private school. Became private while he was there. Lib Dems, both Layla Moran and the guy, I can't remember his name, but Ed Davey, privately educated, and the Tories all privately educated at the top there, pretty much, apart from 50% and Dominic Raab and Gavin Williamson. Oh God. Oh, Betty. And the Brexit Party, all privately educated. Nigel Farage, of course, being most famously privately educated man of the people there is. Well, people think Boris Johnson's a man of the people, even though he's privately educated. Wouldn't piss on them if they were on fire. However, essentially, if you want to stand as a prospective parliamentary candidate for any of these parties, they will demand that you spend a few years in local government first, which on the surface sounds fantastic. Yeah, of course, you should cut your teeth in local government, see if you're any good at debating and talking, getting your points across, coming up with ideas. Wonderful, wonderful. However, being a councillor in this country isn't a paid position. It's not a paid position. Being a mayor of a city is, but being a councillor is not a paid position. You get some money for expenses, that's it. Like fucking stationery. I think it's like £6,500 a year, something like that. So realistically, the only people who can afford to be councillors are the retired. I'd say the unemployed, but they can't afford to do it because you'd be doing a councillorship, and I think that would interfere probably with your universal credit or whatever. And here's the thing. If you are a doctor, a nurse, a firefighter, an ambulance driver, a school teacher, if you're doing a full-time job, and if you've got a family, oh my God, heaven forfend, how the fuck do you find the time to spend 5 years as a councillor in your city or in your town? You just don't. You don't have the fucking time. You could if you were paid for the fucking position. And I'll tell you this, Liverpool has a population of about 450,000 people. That's bigger than some countries. And yet, the people running the city aren't paid. So the way they make their money, by the looks of things, is by backhanders off their mates and building companies that want to build shit in our city and then rip away our UNESCO World Heritage Site listing. Thanks for that, twats. So there's this bar on public office. Unless you have the luxury of leisure time to then spend on being a councillor, you can't become an MP. You can't even stand as an MP for most of the main parties. And this is why a third of the Tory party are privately educated. This is why a big chunk of the Labour Party are privately educated, and the Lib Dems. I mean, it's only 50% of politicians now went to a comp. Only 50%. And yet, what is it? Like 93% of us didn't go to a public school. So I know that there were grammar schools in there as well. But like, seriously? Wow. That's some really bad representation. If only 7% go to private school, and then 2/3 of our cabinet are privately educated, along with the Archbishop of Canterbury, the leader of the Chief Commissioner of the Metropolitan Police, the every single actor you see on TV, pretty much. Because how do you work as an actor unless you're already rich? Unless you're born rich, how do you spend 5 years living in London, doing gigs, doing extra gigs, or going to auditions and seeing if you can get a part or not? Do you see how it's stacked against you? This is why we need universal basic income. That would change everything. It wouldn't just change the fact that there wouldn't be no homeless people anymore. There would be no poverty anymore. There'll be no people stuck in toxic relationships, unable to leave because they fear that they'll end up on the streets. But also, there'll be more young people in politics. Booyakasha. Let's do that. Let's bring in UBI. But the problem is, the old cunts who are in charge of this country at the moment, they're not going to bring it in. They're not going to bring in UBI. They're not going to get rid of first past the post. Labour aren't going to go and say, let's bring in proportional representation. They're not going to say, let's rejoin the single market or the customs union anytime soon. Because they're run by wankers. They're run by people who don't give a toss. Well, run by people who don't live in the real world, I guess. I would like to see doctors running the NHS, thank you very much. I'd like to see teachers running the education department of the government. That's what I'd like to see. I'd like someone like me, not necessarily me, but someone like me, in charge of the foreign service. Someone who's actually travelled the world and knows countries and knows stuff about countries, so they don't get the Congos mixed up or their guineas in a mix. You see what I mean? Like, but I can't run as a councillor. I mean, I can. I mean, I have ran as a councillor, funny enough, but only as a paper candidate because I knew that I wouldn't win. But like, to actually do that as a job, I just don't have the time. I just don't have the time. Oh, bloody, trying to rub two fucking pennies together here. Never mind, like, spending hours of my time. I mean, it's enough doing all the Grassroots for Europe stuff that I do. And I volunteer for too much stuff. I really, really do. But, like, being a councillor, it's an important position. And you should take it seriously. The only people who do it, like, look, don't get me wrong. Some people who are councillors are really, really good. And they they're very conscientious. And they care a lot about the community. They come up with good ideas. And they really help. But other people who are councillors, some of the people who are councillors, let's just put it that way. Hashtag not all councillors are in it for shit reasons. Maybe they just like the sound of their own voice. Says a guy who goes on YouTube every night and talks for an hour. Nuke 55, Tustin Street from Orbit. It's the only way to be sure. Good idea, Graham. David Donald Carey says, question, does that mean local town councils not paid for that job? Yes, they're not paid. It's a voluntary position. Very good point, Graham, about local councils. It sets up a firewall. It's a firewall against people who aren't rich going into politics, as has always been. The Parliament Act of 1911 brought in wages for MPs because up to that point, in order to be an MP, you had to be filthy rich. So they said, oh God, we've got to do something about this. This is ridiculous. It's a ridiculous system because the only people getting into Parliament, people making decisions are absolutely minted and don't know what it's like to not be bloody minted. And they're incapable of empathy. As you see when you see Priti Patel's fucking smirk on her face as she sees like people being deported from our country, vulnerable people being deported back to Afghanistan, and she's proud as fucking punch. Hate her. Anyway, your current school options are go to an average school and be educated, or go to a private school and learn a list of future contacts. Yeah, Kevin, it's got to stop. It's got to stop. But Labour have never gone against private schools. I mean, I think Corbyn tried to put something in the 2019 manifesto about it, but it was buried in this 100-page document. Oh my God. It's like, this must have sat around in a fucking room, right? This must have happened. And they've gone, okay, so we need to think of a good slogan for this election. And this is in December 2019. This election that didn't need to fucking happen. This election that didn't need to happen. It was voted on to happen by Labour and the Lib Dems. They said, let's have this election. That'll show everyone who likes Britain and democracy. Anyway, so the most unpopular Labour leader, in fact, the most unpopular leader of a major political party in the world, stood for election. And they must have had this conversation where they went, the Tories do quite well out of these 3-word slogans like get Brexit done and face hand space. So I think that wasn't around then, but the 3-word slogans, take back control. The Tories have done really well out of those slogans. So what should we do in response to those slogans? Should we come up with our own 3-word slogan that's like for Labour? No, we'll send out to our members a 100-page manifesto in the middle of winter. 100-page manifesto. What? on what we're going to do to improve the lives of people in the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. And it was shit because no one bothered to read it. Because we live in a society in which over 1 billion people around the world purport to be Christian. In fact, let's find out what the actual number is. Number of Christians. Let's just number of Christians in the world. Whoa, wow, wow. Sorry, I was 1.5 billion out. 2.5 billion people who purport to be Christian in the world. How many of them do you reckon have read the fucking Bible? Yeah, exactly. So who the fuck is going to read a bloody 100-page synopsis of what Labour want to do in the middle of winter? Anyway, I'm going off topic a little bit here, but like seriously, that conversation must have happened. Oh my God. So I think the problem with Labour at the moment is it's being run, staffed and advised by dickheads. That's a big problem. How do we become advisors to the Labour Party? I have no fucking clue. I don't know how it works. Anyway, it did start after all, said Pineapple Boy. Yep, a little bit choke. David says, Priti Patel deported an Italian immigrant who went with a digital visa and a job offer in the bank in London. They say they only accept paper visa. He got 2 days arrested and deported to Italy. That's disgraceful. That's absolutely disgraceful. Alexis G says, hi Graham, sorry I'm late. Nice to see you again. Live long and prosper, my friend. I did not realise that the case of the UK government need to be rich. We have different people in government in Finland, like unemployed plumbers, teachers, nurses, etc. Similar. They've put barriers in place to make sure that you just can't get into politics. I mean, look, this isn't absolute. Obviously, some people manage to do it, and hats off to them. They're obviously better people than me because I tried, and I was surprised. Because I've ran for government. I've ran for parliament. Sorry, not government. I've ran for parliament. I've also ran as a councillor in Liverpool twice. And yeah, I didn't really do too much canvassing or anything. I didn't, because I had no aspirations of winning at any time because I wasn't really backed by a major party that could actually get me into office. But the fact remains that they make it very, very, very difficult for ordinary people to go for political office in this country, and they've got clever ways of doing that, clever ways that people don't notice and don't talk about. And when you bring it up, oh my God, the shit I get on Facebook for going on about private schools, it's unbelievable. It's like, oh, well, leave them alone. And it always turns out that it's the parents or someone who sent the kid to private school, and they feel a bit guilty about that. They feel a little bit like, well, I know it's going to give them an unfair advantage over all the other children, including my stepchildren, but it's just the way it is, isn't it? Leave them alone. I'm like, no, we need to shut these down. It's not fair. You want to level up, shut them down. There you go. That's how you level up the country. Don't forget, we've got a system in which only 1% of the money, of the £1 billion that's spent every year in private schools on the students, only 1% goes to the really needy kids who cannot afford to go to that school in any way, shape or form. Only 1% of that money. The rest of it, another 2% goes on kids who can afford up to 25% of the fees, which is still a bloody lot of money. I mean, you're talking about schools that are £12,000 a year or even a term. So even 25% of that is a fuckload of money for most working families in the UK. And then, like, the rest of the money, the 97% of the money goes to kids whose parents can probably afford it. And over 50% of it goes on sports equipment and musical instruments for the children of millionaires. And by giving those millionaires' children musical instruments and sporting equipment, like skiing equipment to go on their expensive ski trips, they don't pay tax. They don't pay fucking tax. It's a big fucking scam. It's a massive scam. Should we have our own slogan? No, let's publish a phone book instead. Indeed. I think that's how the conversation went down. You would have to take that hat off in the House of Commons. Oh, no. Would I? Well, do you have to take your hat off in the House of Commons? I went to the Liverpool Cathedral the other day when I was in Liverpool visiting my family. I went with the kids because they've never been to the heartbreaking cathedral. So we've got two cathedrals in Liverpool. We've got the Anglican Cathedral that was designed by Sir Giles Gilbert Scott. who was a phenomenal architect. He was the grandson of George Gilbert Scott, who was the designer of St Pancras Station. And also Giles went on to design Battersea Power Station, the where the Tate Modern is now, and other landmark buildings around the UK. And the Anglican Cathedral took 70 years to build. It's actually a concrete building, but you wouldn't know that because it's clad in local sandstone. It's local red sandstone. Down the road, down Hope Street, there was going to be this amazing cathedral, the Lutyens Cathedral. So this is a guy, Edwin Lutyens, I think his name was. And he had this dream of building the biggest Catholic cathedral. It was going to be the biggest Catholic cathedral in Britain, but I think it was going to be the biggest Catholic cathedral in Europe. I think it was going to be actually slightly bigger than the ones in Rome and Venice and stuff. So he did his plans, and before World War II, they started building the crypts underneath. So the floor plan was all there for this cathedral, and he died. He died in 1944. Apparently, he wanted to see his pictures that he'd drawn of his cathedral on his deathbed, which I think is really sweet. And then Giles Gilbert Scott's brother stepped in. So the guy who designed the Anglican Cathedral, his brother stepped in, and he set about finishing the vaults. So the vaults got finished. But then the Catholic Church, probably knowing that it would have loads of money that would have to dole out in the future for future, cases of child abuse, probably. So we don't have the money. We don't have the money to build this massive, crazy cathedral. You'll have to build a stupid, quick one. So instead of getting something like the Sagrada Familia, which has taken 100 years to build, we got something that was thrown up. I'm going to say thrown up in 3 years. In 3 years. And we call it Paddy's Wigwam, which is a bit racist probably against Irish people. And as someone who's, my mum was baptised as a Catholic and a Protestant. My grandparents, my grandfather was he was a Protestant. My grandmother was a Catholic. And my great-grandparents actually came over from Ireland on my dad's side. On my mum's dad's side. They came over from Ireland because he was a Protestant and she was a Catholic. And he was actually part of the Orange Order. Lots of sort of Protestant Catholic things going on in my family. So I can get away with it a little bit, sort of making a little bit of fun of left footers. But the fact that they just bodged this job up in Liverpool, and you go in and the concrete inside has just been left unfinished. Like they haven't actually bothered to render it in any way or make it look nice. So it just looks like concrete, the exact same concrete ribbing that you get in like a multi-story car park, and this is in a cathedral. If I was God and this was the thing that they had built for me, I'd just get madder and madder. I'd be like, what the hell is this? And I mean, I guess in a way it's an impressive artifice, but realistically, it just doesn't say anything about the city, at least the Anglican Cathedral, which wasn't finished till after the Catholic one, because that took 70 years to build, whereas the Catholic one only took 3 in the 60s. It was like it's more of a monument to concrete. It's more of a monument to concrete. But the Anglican Cathedral, at least it's dressed in red sandstone, which is a very Liverpool stone. If you drive through South Liverpool, you'll see lots of garden walls and things, which are park walls that are made of this red sandstone. It's a very distinctive colour of sandstone that we have in Liverpool. So at least it's got that connection with Liverpool. Whereas this other cathedral, man, oh my God. So then we walked around outside, and it is just a monument to the 1960s, a monument to concrete, and it's got these buttresses that go up. So imagine it like it's kind of like a wigwam, right? Like a big teepee, but it's made of concrete, and it's got these buttresses that go up, and you can knock on the buttresses, and it's just fiberboard. It's just dressed in fiberboard. It's unbelievable. Is this really fiber? Oh my God, it is as well. It's like, could you have... yeah, anyway, so yeah. Churches that were built after the Second World War. Apart from Dresden Cathedral, which was rebuilt after the Second World War, and they put all the stones that they could find back on it. And then they made new stones for the ones that were lost, and they kind of rebuilt it in the 90s in exactly the same way that it should have looked before it was blown up in the Second World War. Destroyed by fire, I think, in the Second World War. So, that one can stay. But the rest of them, oh my God. Anyway, sorry, I went off on one there about architecture. I'm still raging at Liverpool losing its UNESCO World Heritage Site. I started chatting to one of my friends the other day. You might be listening. Hi, AB, if you are. And he said, "Oh no, but he likes the Man Island buildings. These black buildings that like just black clad buildings, like S&M buildings, BDSM buildings next to the Three Graces, which are the Port of Liverpool building, the Liver building, and the other one, and the other one, and they built these buildings, and he said, "Oh, I love the reflection of the Three Graces," and I'm like, so they put up a big black mirror, and that's a good thing. What? How? What? No, I just don't get it. Anyway, so there you go. Danger with Greece. What? Hey, don't diss these sweet public school kids. After all, they'll be trained to rule us one day. Yeah. I gave a talk once in Eton. I gave a talk about my travels in Eton. True story. So I may have told my funny stories about getting thrown in jail in Africa, in African countries. I might have told them to a future prime minister. Who knows? Probably have. Sulev says, if the EU had not loaned money, I suppose Greece would have had to bring back drachma and inflate until they found stability. Yeah, probably. Danger with Greece was no money because they could not inflate or loan. That leads to depression, and it does. Patrick McCarthy, God hates concrete, he just does. Well, I agree with God on this one. I don't agree with God on a lot of things, but I agree with God on this one. Concrete absolutely sucks. It's the worst material to make things out of. It's actually, for a city, when you concrete over and then just have roads made of concrete and you have buildings made of concrete, it creates the heat island effect, which is devastating for the people who are going to be living in these cities in future years, because it's going to get warmer and warmer. You're going to see more and more people dying of heat stroke because concrete just absorbs all this heat. It doesn't reflect it. I mean, it's a shit, and it's a shit building material to build things out of because it crumbles. You're essentially making stuff out of sand, okay? I know it's a bit more, it's got cement in and whatever, but it's sand, okay? You're building your castles out of sand, which is fun on a beach, but if you're going to do it in real life, you've got to be really careful about how you build it, because the way that a lot of these buildings have been built in the past, the sand, or the concrete, I should say, the concrete has been porous, and that means that water gets in to the rebar, and once moisture hits that rebar starts to expand, and it cracks the concrete, and it destroys the foundations of your building, and it's so dangerous. And we see this on bridges all around the world. Concrete bridges that were built in the 60s and 70s are falling the fuck apart because they're made with rebar. This exact reason why, the bridge in Durham, New Elvet Bridge in Durham, has been closed for over a year now because they're having to basically repair it all. And the bridge just a little down the way, which is a stone bridge, which has stood there for hundreds of years, that's fine. That's still doing fine. But the concrete one, it's been wrecked. And we've got these concrete foundations. And it's to do also with the mix of the concrete. I think the Romans managed to make a concrete that was completely waterproof, but we've never quite mastered that. And you get architects, wild-eyed architects who will get very passionate about the fact that it's this wonder material. And what they're missing out is, the reality is, it's just fucking cheap. If you want to build a building, you want to make a fucking skyscraper, which are ridiculous things to build, especially somewhere like London. You don't need them. It's not an island like Manhattan. You don't really need skyscrapers. You spread out if you want. But yeah, skyscrapers. Woo. If you're going to build these things and build them full of concrete. So you're going to build these things. You've got to use concrete. You couldn't build these things out of stone. You couldn't build them out of brick. Really. You've got to, or wood. It'd be great. You have to build them out of concrete because it's cheap. It's a very versatile material. It's fucking cheap and it falls apart and it smells of piss. Anyway, why am I talking about concrete so much? I don't know. Sick building syndrome. Yeah, Jeremy Goff. There was the maths tower in Manchester University on Oxford Road in Manchester. I remember going in there once and had sick building syndrome. They've actually torn it down since. And the ceilings were like this high. The ceilings were just above your head. And there wasn't enough windows. There was hardly any ventilation. The most sick building that's got sick building syndrome at the moment, as far as I'm concerned, is the Royal Liverpool Hospital, which is just a disgusting building. It's a mishmash, a bodge job of all these different kind of shit architectural styles, brutalist, and it doesn't have windows. You go in. I remember being in there once for a checkup or something. I can't remember what I was in there for, but I needed to use the loo. And you know when you're in like you know when you're in a very, very hot environment and they have air conditioning, and generally speaking they don't air conditioning the bogs. This is the thing that happens a lot in developing countries. So you walk into the toilets and they actually stink because it's so hot and humid in the bathroom, and there's a little tiny window open into the desert or whatever. And I remember I went to the toilets in this hospital, and it's a fucking hospital, and oh my God, like I opened the door and just the stink, and like I started to sweat just going into this because it was so hot. And it's like the middle of winter, but because the heating and the air circulation was so bad, this toilet was like a fucking sauna. And you know, shit and piss, cooked piss and shit isn't the flavour that you really want to be smelling when you're either recovering from an operation or going in for one. It's just like, what? Really? This is... But yeah, the old Liverpool infirmary stood for 80 years. It was built in the 1890s by a guy called... It was designed by a guy called Alfred Waterhouse, who I've mentioned before. He's the guy who did Manchester Town Hall. And it was a magnificent building. It was used for Casualty 1906 or 1907. They made a couple of series of Casualty set in the past, and they actually filmed it in the hospital there. And yeah, they left in 1979, the year of my birth, to go to this new piece of shit, absolute piece of shit, a hospital over the way, which has sick buildings. It's a hospital with sick building syndrome. And that hospital was barely 30 years old when they said we need a new hospital. 30 years old! 30 years! That's all it fucking lasted. Take that, the environment. It's another problem with building all these crappy buildings. Don't restore the ones we've got. Don't build a new monument to fucking egos and narcissism and stupidity and cheap building materials. Pisses me off. Anyway. Oh my God, London looks gloomy. Used to work near Farrington, Canary Wharf, commuted daily, stopped around 2019. Went for a day out a couple of days ago. Masses of new towers. Soul of the city is gone. Yeah. Ugly NCP car parks here in Notts have concrete scabs dropping off. Yeah. That's all I ever think of when I see a concrete building. I don't think of brutalism and wonderful, that fucking Swiss bastards, the Cabassier, the Cabastarday. I think of multi-story car parks, and I think of Nazi submarine bases. Now type in Nazi submarine base into Google for a laugh, and there's a wonderful example of brutalist architecture. Yeah, because it had to be built quick in a war out of cheap materials, and it had to be bomb-proof. Yeah. John says it's lime that's used in hempcrete. It may have CO2 impact, but not as bad as the production of cement. Same here in Netherlands. It wasn't. Probably still isn't like that in Greece, says Conservatory, responding to something that John said. John Barleycorn, different John, said there was an image on Twitter of an old stone railway bridge that had become unsafe. Rather than the cheap option and fix the bridge, they infilled the arch with concrete to support it. Sexy. They've done that on one of the bridges. One of the bridges of the Liverpool Loop line, which used to be the old Cheshire Lines railway in Liverpool. One of the bridges is the one down by Broad Green Station. They've actually just done a layer of concrete inside. Yeah. They had an image on Twitter. Yeah, a banana republic has bananas, and usually at least tourism. Greece didn't have the bananas. Perhaps its elite should have concentrated less on avoiding tax, but more on raising it and spending it. Indeed. I think that if Greece had collected all taxes due, they probably would have solved their deficit. They just had to abolish cash money. Indeed. There's a fantastic church in Helsinki built inside a rock. I forgot the name, probably unpronounceable. That sounds really cool. Well, Petra in Jordan. That's absolutely phenomenal. They used the treasury building of that in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, where they used that as a Grail temple. And it's all carved out of the rock. It's just phenomenal. But that's just one part of it. It's an entire city of stuff that is just beautiful buildings carved out of rock. It is not a pretty building. I am not a merry man. 0.6 tons of CO2 are emitted per ton of concrete, says Pineapple Boy. Pineapple Boy, we need to just stop. We need to just stop. Just stop it. Stop it. Concrete is fine if handled the right way. Any material, building material is shit if you are cheap. Yeah, but I'm thinking now, like, if that's how much a ton of concrete producing CO2, I'd like to see how much stone creates in CO2. The same amount. I'll find that out. That'll be good. Because now we have effectively 3D printers, which are, I know they're called the CNC milling machines or whatever, the CNC milling machines. And that's the official title. But we can get a block of granite, put it into a machine, do some stuff on a computer, and it'll carve out a beautiful capital of a Corinthian column for you overnight. We don't need masons anymore. Sorry, masons. There's too few of them anyway, but doing restoration projects and things like that should be easier now, I think. But I don't know if anyone's sort of doing that. I don't know if that's a business that anyone's actually doing. I love the Barbican. Even pondered rendering that. I hate the Barbican with an absolute pathological loathing, Martin. From far away, it looks cold, but you have a bunch of green space venues, things to do. Brutalist architecture can be decent. I absolutely hate the Barbican. I had a friend who lived in one of the buildings there, and it was horrible. It was like the one wall was glass. The entire wall was glass. So when it was sunny, the sun just came through there, and you couldn't see. You had to close the curtains, try and see the telly, and it was just a night. It was on two floors, and you had to come out, and when you went into the corridor, it was like a hotel corridor, and it fucking stank, and you had to walk past other people, and you just felt like you were just a number, like you were in some fucking dystopian sci-fi movie, or A Clockwork Orange, in fact, which was probably filmed in the Barbican, I don't know. They had these concrete buildings, and it's just, I find it absolutely soul-crushing that the powers that be think that this is the way that things should look. This should look like a Nazi submarine base. We should put people in it. And then they wonder why, like, suicide rates and rates of depression are so high amongst people who live in these places. They fucking live in an absolute shitty hellhole. That they imagine just having to hear your fucking neighbours fucking, having to hear your neighbours, anything they do. Imagine just not having your own front door and having to share your front door with loads of other people. Look, Bass today thought that was a fucking amazing thing. He loved the idea of loads of people sharing the same front door. I hate it. I think it's demeaning. I think it's demoralising. I think it goes against what sets us out from the ants. Actually, ants have lots of exits to the ant nest. Maybe bees. I don't know. No, you would be cutting trees, reducing their ability to catch CO2. I'm not a number. I'm a free man, indeed. Really expensive dystopian concrete jungle, the Barbican. It's horrible. It's absolutely horrible. And it just makes me... This is the problem. My biggest problem with concrete and the shit we build, and especially brutalist architecture, it doesn't cheer anyone up. It really doesn't cheer anyone up. And for me, in particular, it has a detrimental effect on my mental health. Because having to see something that fucking ugly every day on the way into work, or sit opposite something that ugly in an office, I just find it soul-crushing. I really do. It's like probably having to work with Priti Patel or Anne Widdecombe, even better example. It's like having to work with Anne Widdecombe sitting opposite you. And when you go, fucking hell, will someone take this disgusting sight away from me? People go, oh, but we think Anne Widdecombe's beautiful. She's an amazing example of I don't know, a horrible experiment gone wrong, where they tried to mix a woman's DNA with a turkey's. Maybe it was like The Fly, and it was Anne Widdecombe, and she got in with the turkey, and now she's half turkey, half woman. I'm Anne Widdecombe. She honestly sounds like she's fucking half turkey, that woman. She's horrible. Anyway, yeah, that's how I feel about modern architecture. Brutalist architecture. Actually, modern architecture needs shit. Alexis, thank you for the £5 super chat. I'm going in a minute, so that's put a spring in my step on the way out. Thank you very much. If anyone else wants to throw in a super chat before I go, I'd be very, very grateful. I'm sorry for not doing as many shows this summer as I've been doing up to the summer. It just it messes with my schedule a little bit with the kids being off school and everything else. So sorry I've missed a few nights or a few days. But you're gonna get bloody dickhead ginger scouse overload once I go to Ginger Island. 8 hours a day. 9 if you come over to Desert Island Discord. Alexa says, have you seen the Boken video? Name the young Tory on Indie Truck Davy channel. Have a bucket with you if you watch it. I've not seen it, Alexis, and you're not really selling it to me. And Widdicombe statue for Liverpool for services for Brexit. Indeed. It doesn't play. That tower stands alone. Doesn't play nicely with the surroundings. I just find it heartbreaking when you go to Berlin and you see what they've done on the east side, because the Soviets just left everything. They didn't do shit when they were there, occupying. And when Germany reunified, they actually rebuilt these Prussian palaces. They rebuilt everything as it was before the war. Whereas on the western side of Berlin, they tried to make everything look modern and amazing. So anyone peering over the wall saw these amazing concrete buildings and went, oh, wow, it's all modern and amazing. And they've got this horrible, horrible cathedral. Or I think it's a cathedral. It might just be a church. It's basically a column, stained glass windows around it. It looks fucking disgusting. It just reminds me that when you go to Jeddah in Saudi Arabia, a place where they absolutely worship concrete. I mean, I think it's really quite blasphemous, in fact, the way they worship concrete in Saudi Arabia. But they have a block. They have a big cube of concrete with cars sticking out of it. And you're like, what the fuck is... It's like so bad. It's like this public art. And just looking at it going, that's just fucking horrible. It's just like, what is... It's just a block of concrete with a sort of element of a scrapyard thrown in for good measure. It's just like a statement on something. I don't know how everything in the future is going to be dominated by concrete and cars. Yay. Patrick McCarthy, £5 super chat. Thank you very much, Patrick. I really, really appreciate it. Hi all. Just dropped in to give a like. Thank you, Christian. Really appreciate it. And Widdicombe is Brexit architecture. Yeah. Around here, we have a lot of old Soviet concrete buildings. Some of them have been remade quite nice. I kind of like what they've done in Baku, in Azerbaijan, where they've rendered the front of the buildings. And there's a point about concrete buildings. Actually, the Anglican Cathedral, although you wouldn't know it, is a concrete building. The Liver building is a concrete building. It's just dressed in stone. So what they've done in Baku in Azerbaijan is a lot of these Soviet-era tower blocks and office blocks and things. They've clad them in stone, and they don't all look great, but some of them look really nice. Like they've done them quite well, and they've improved them very much without having to demolish the building and build a new one. Result. Sulav says, conservative, the trees will be growing another 100 years before rotting. In 100 years, the wooden building is on its way out as well. Sulav, one of the things I'd say about growing trees, a tree, especially things like fir trees, pine trees, they suck in loads more CO2 when they're growing than they do when they're fully grown. As a result, in the first 10 years of their life or whatever it is, that they suck in loads of CO2. Compared with the next 90 years of their life or whatever it is. So, if we're canny about it, we should chop them down and plant new trees every X many years. I don't know if it's 10 years, don't at me, but and once they've stopped growing, chop them down, put new trees in, and bury the bastards, or make paper out of them and then bury the paper, make buildings out of them, whatever. But at least you've got the carbon dioxide is locked in to that actual wood after that. And don't forget that everything we're going to be building on Ginger Island is going to be wood as well. So I'm sure you don't have your forest cut down at all at once, but in a sustainable way. Yeah, sustainable. Enver Hoaxer left a legacy of concrete bunkers. That's the guy who was in charge in Albania after the war, and he had hundreds of these concrete bunkers put around the country because dictators, fascists, love concrete. There you go. There's a fun fact for you. Fascists love concrete. Yeah, I don't. I think it is totalitarianism in building form. Hate it. Absolutely hate it. If humans suddenly disappear, then the last thing left in 100,000 years is Mount Rushmore. It's kind of depressing, isn't it? A sacred mountain to the indigenous, I think it's the Dakota tribe who live there, and there's just been defaced by fucking idiots putting pictures of presidents on it. I mean, Jesus Christ. With hempcrete house, you need a wooden frame to support the structure, but once the wood is encased in the hempcrete, it pretty much preserves the wood. Sounds good to me. Okay, I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to head over to the Discord server, please be my guest. I might be able to join you in a bit. I've got some errands to run first, but I will get my Discord up. Hang on a sec. Don't mind me. I'm just Googling things. Discord, checking for updates. I've found that if I use my Discord program that I've downloaded, it always crashes when I try to use my video. But if I open it on my Chrome browser, it works. So just a little hint there for you if it's crashing for you. Not my fault. Not my fault. Not my monkeys. Not my disco. Not my monkey disco. Right. This link will self-destruct after 6 hours. Boop, 6 hours. Generate new link. Copy. Okay. Oh, you're finishing, Lee. You missed me. Yes, Lee. I was just waxing lyrical about how awesome UBR.fm is. So, yeah, if you're working in the garden tomorrow, or you're out jogging or something, really, really, really can't recommend this enough. Just go to ubr.fm on your phone, plug in your headphones, stick them in your ears, and you'll hear the latest videos from Max, from Phil, from Mitch Ben. I know Mitch Ben's songs are on there, which is absolutely brilliant. I wasn't expecting that. It was like, because I kind of forgot. I asked him a while ago if it was okay we put his tunes on the radio, and he's like, yeah, sure, no worries. He's a good lad. He went to the same school as me, you know, Mitch Ben. He was a bit older than me though. It was before my time. Sulav says, "Oh, you don't have a regular maintenance on Rushmore. Doubt to be recognisable within 1,000 years." I think the pyramids will probably be the last things to disappear back to the sand, because they'll probably get covered in sand, which will kind of preserve them, won't it? Graham, you think Anne Widdecombe sometimes forget to take a medication? There isn't any medication strong enough for that woman. Anyway, so I've just dropped the Discord link into the chat there on YouTube. So if you want to click on that and head over to the Discord server, I'll probably be there in about half an hour. I've just got some things to do before I come on board. So tomorrow I should be back. Should be at 10 o'clock for another Hughes at 10. I'll be doing Hughes at 10 all this week, I hope. If anything goes disastrously wrong, I will let you know on my Twitter account at Every Country, so just check that out. Also, if you want to support me through Patreon, which I would really recommend you doing, because if you just give me like £3 on Patreon, or it's like, you know, price of a cup of tea, you can get special access to the Ginger Island server. Once we the Ginger Island Discord server, once we head over there, so other people will have to become, you know, members of the tribe. You won't have to. You'll get a secret backdoor entry to the Discord, the Ginger Island Discord server, with me and Marcus. So either, you know, if you want to sponsor me on Patreon, or you want to sponsor Marcus, in fact, either of us will do. You will get automatic free access to the Ginger Island Discord server, where lots of stuff will be going down when we get to Ginger Island. Well, we don't actually get there till the Sunday, so it's actually 14 days that we'll actually land on Ginger Island. But the journey starts in 12 days on Friday, the 10th of September. Okie dokie. Right, COVID permitting and all that jazz. Okay, so thanks for watching, everyone. And I'd just like to say a big shout out to all my wonderful Patreon crew and also my YouTube members. Also, if you are a YouTube member, you'll also get access to the Desert Island Discord server. So that's it. I'll be back tomorrow at 10 o'clock. And look out for me and Marcus on Maximilian's server show on Friday at 9:30. Okay, thanks very much for watching. Thanks for your wonderful comments, and thanks for the super chats, and thanks for being awesome bastards, the lot of you. Love yous. I'll see you tomorrow. Until then, hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.